Welcome to the video. In this video we're going to be taking a first look at this thing here. This is the S6R from FrSky. Now I've been interested in taking a look at this, and we've had this for about 4 or 5 weeks, but we're hanging on actually using it because we're waiting for all the software and everything to settle down a little bit. Now this came from Banggood, so we need to say a very big thank you for those guys, but we also had to order an extra little bit too. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk about first of all what this is and why you maybe would use this, and then we're going to show you the configuration software, and then as soon as I manage to get my hands on a nice fixed wing model, then we're going to use this instead of something like an X6R, and we're going to go and configure it and see how it actually works. So let's start at the very beginning. What actually is it? Let's take out the packet and show you. It looks very much like an X6R, and it is physically about the same size, but there is an extra little bit of goodness in here over a standard X6R. As well as having the standard 6 outputs and your smart port connection, it also provides 3-axis stabilization as well, primarily for things like fixed wing. Some of you may have come across stabilization technology before, and it can provide lots of different things. It can be an auto level, so when you let go of the sticks, the plane rights itself, which can be very good if you're a newer pilot and you're getting into trouble, and absolutely fantastic if you're learning to fly. Or it can do things like lock in particular axes to help do aerobatics and things like knife edges. Now, to configure this is a little bit interesting, and that's part of the reason why we've been holding off making the videos for it. Now, there are 2 ways that you can actually configure this module and set it up so it's ready to plug into the plane that you're interested in. The first is to use OpenTX 2.2. Now OpenTX 2.2 at the time of recording still isn't out, but OpenTX 2.2, as we looked at recently in the clean flight video, has some really cool stuff in it. One of the big changes is the fact it has full bidirectional telemetry, which allows you to talk to whatever is on the other end in a real 2-directional way. Now what that means is, and we talked about it in that clean flight video, you could potentially have a Lua script on the radio and then using the bidirectional connection up to the model, change settings on the fly, and that's exactly what is going to happen with this. Once OpenTX 2.2 is around and it's working, then we should be able to configure and set this up just by running a Lua script on a Taranis radio and setting it how it wants to work. And those are settings that we'll look at in a second. Things like the kind of wing type that you have, whether it's a flying wing or a more traditional plane, whether it's got a V-tail or a traditional elevator rudder setup, those kind of things. But also set the gains for the 3-axis stabilization, because you'll notice on this thing there's no little connections here for little screws that you can pull to change the gains for the axes and all that kind of goodness too. The second way, and the way that we're going to have to do it today, because OpenTX 2.2 still isn't out, is using this thing here. So at the moment, if you want to play with an S6R, you've also got to buy one of these. Now I didn't realize I needed one, so I had to go and actually get this as well. Now this is an S-Port tool kit, STK, and there's 2 dip switches here, and it sets it between upgrade and config. Ours is set over to the right hand side for config, and then you have 2 smart port connections, and the whole idea with this is plugged into the smart port connection on this device, and then you can plug it into your PC and configure it. Now the manual that comes with this thing actually shows how you connect it up. So you need the dip switch in that upright position, which we've got. You also need then to have the smart port connection all made up, just like we've done, and then you have to start downloading software and playing with stuff. So let's jump onto the FrSky website and I'll show you where you get the software from. So first of all, go onto the FrSky website, go into the products area, find the receivers, and in there, under the X series receivers, because this is actually an X6R with some extra bits on, you'll find the S6R. In there, if you scroll around, you've got all the specs and all the other bits and pieces too. And then if you go down to the download section in there, then you'll have the manual for this thing. You'll also have the firmware itself, and then you have the tool config for the S6R. Now, I downloaded and tried version 1.0 of the tool config, and it was horrible. It kept crashing on me, which is another reason why I've been hanging on. But I've just downloaded version 1.3, which is the current version as I'm recording the video, so hopefully that's going to work a little bit better. So let me plug this USB cable that we've got now, this STK thing, into the computer. Let's fire up the config tool and we can have a quick look at the kind of things that are configurable on this before you plug it into your craft. So we've just plugged in the receiver. It's just sat there next to us with the red light flashing slowly, so it's got power. There's also a red and green light now on the STK stick, and we've got COM3 appearing here. This is the application as it starts on the PC, so we've just downloaded and installed it, and this is version 1.3, and this is genuinely the first time I've run version 1.3. So hopefully by now this is going to be a little bit more stable and allow me to actually shoot the video. Now, before we actually open the connection to COM3 and the S6R to start changing things, let me just quickly show you the different tabs. So here's the wing types that you can select. You can either have the standard 2 aileron connections with a traditional elevator and rudder, or you can select a flying wing, which is going to be very interesting for us, or a plane with a V-tail connection. And this was something that we're potentially going to try on something like a mini Talon, but there might be some other airframes that have a slightly more traditional layout that this could be more interesting to try on. The mounting type, this just tells the S6R which way that it's actually set up, so you can actually install it any way you want in the craft, but you have to tell it so that it knows what level should be in relation to how it's set. So in here, auto level mode is exactly what you'd expect. It's how it's going to pull the craft back to level if there's a problem. Knife edge mode is how it's going to help you do those kind of aerobatics. And it's also got something called a hover mode and stabilize mode as well. I'm not going to go through all that. What I'd say at the moment is have a look in the manual. It kind of explains these in pretty good detail, and we will go through it a little bit more when we actually use it in anger. Then for each of the main settings, you can set up the offset angles for the auto level, for the hover and for the knife edge, and then you've got the accelerometer calibration where you can go through and you have to kind of put it in each individual position, and then when you start here, as soon as you start the calibration, it kind of takes you through. So let's quickly connect to ours here. Let's read all the settings. There we go. So our wing type should be for the V-tail. There it is. So it's remembered the plane that we've done before. The mounting type, we've got a standard. We're going to obviously start with the standard gain settings, and then we'll tweak with these and try and figure out exactly how they work in the video where we use it in anger. So the last thing I'll show you is the accelerometer calibration. You have to go through a little routine, and it wasn't as obvious as it should be in the menu, so I'm just very quickly going to show you this if you're starting to play one of these yourselves. You go into accelerometer calibration, some of the bits and pieces are moving around. What you have to do is place the S6R according to the following pictures and keep it still, which is I think what that actually means, and then click the calibration button. So what you need to do is, I thought that once I start calibration and click next, that what I'm doing is similar to the APM and things like boards using iNav. You have to put it in each orientation. Doesn't quite work well that. What you have to do is put the S6R so it matches the picture, and then you click calibration. You wait until the light stops flashing, the yellow light. Once it does, then you click next, then you put the S6R in that position, and then while holding it still in that position, you click calibration, and you're waiting for the yellow light to go off. When you've set everything and you've got everything the way you want it, then you click the right button, so you write everything back to the S6R before you click close. So hopefully that helps those of you that are looking at this, kind of explain a little bit about what it does. It's really for fixed wings, it's not for anything else. And join us when we get a nice little airframe and we'll pop this in, we'll set it up, and we'll see how it actually works. Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. There are lots of other videos on the channel and they're carefully ordered into playlists, so you may find that there are other videos on this same subject that you can go and watch. So I would recommend going into the playlist area of Painless 360 YouTube channel and looking around and seeing what there is. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and happy flying.